think we're set. All right, we got the YouTube going. All right, everybody ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Everybody ready on Zoom?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Chuck McLean. I'm the Chief Public Utility Law Judge here at the Commission. It's approximately 5 minutes after 10 on September 24th? All right, 2024, and we're here for an evidentiary hearing, case number 9729, which is captioned Maryland Water Service, Inc.'s application to revise and consolidate rates, charges, and tariff provisions for Maryland for water and sewage disposal services. We can start with appearances, start with the company.
Thank you, Your Honor. David Bugelmans on behalf of Maryland Water Service, also joined by my colleague, Mr. Maxwell Cook.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Your Honor. Brock Miller on behalf of the Office of People's Counsel, also joined by Peggy Costello and Milan Tekla-Mikhail.
Good morning, Your Honor. Kenneth Albert on behalf of staff, and my co-counsel here is James Greger.
Mr. Tibbetts, you want to enter your appearance, please, sir?
Yes, sir. David Allen Tibbetts, party pro se. Also, I cannot just clearly hear the people at the front table. If you could increase the volume slightly, it would be useful.
All right.
Is that me?
All right. If I could just encourage everyone to, these mics are not that great, so just got to stay a little bit closer and make sure your mic is on. All right. If you can't hear for some reason, just give me a wave or don't be shy. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. All right, Mr. Bugelmans.
Thank you, Your Honor. Before we call our first witness, I do want to state for the record that the company has withdrawn its request to defer benefits and costs to achieve benefits associated with the Southwest Water Company merger. So company witness Luke Tosi is not here today.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Could the counsel please speak louder or clearer to the mic?
Move it a little closer.
I'll speak as loud as I can without
How's that, sir? Is that
being
better?
too loud.
That's better. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Mr. Tibbetts, let me know if I am not loud enough, and I'll correct it.
It might just be distance.
Okay. So for our first witness, Your Honor, we will call Scott Miller. He is appearing virtually. I do remember from the COVID era. Would you like me to make the attestation about the witness?
Please.
Okay. I hereby attest that the witness is alone in a separate room and on a communication with any other individual. Mr. Miller's testimony is in evidence. I have no live rejoinder, so he's available for cross-examination.
Okay. All right. OPC.
OPC has no cross for this witness, Your Honor.
Okay. I'm sorry. Mr. Miller, can I get you to raise your right hand before I get you to say anything? Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. And can you state and spell your name for the court reporter, please, sir?
Yes, my name is Scott Miller, S-C-O-T-T, last name M-I-L-L-E-R.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Albert.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Miller. Kenneth Albert on behalf of Commission staff. Mr.
Good
Tibbetts,
morning.
can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Mr. Tibbetts as well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Okay.
Could you raise your voice a little, but I can actually hear you, yes.
Okay. Mr. Miller, if I can ask you to turn to page 4 of your rebuttal testimony. Let me know when you're there.
I'm there.
And in the first question and answer at the top of the page, that second sentence, my studies propose allocating 10% of purchased water expense to each of, well, I'm sorry, let me start the first sentence. I continue to believe that allocating a small portion of purchased water expense to both maximum day and maximum hour not only is reasonable, but reflects the cost that the utility incurs. My studies propose allocating 10% of purchased water expense to each of these two cost centers to recognize that there are capacity considerations inherently built into not only the physical assets, but the purchased water agreement as well. And you go on, while it's true that the unit price may not fluctuate based on varying levels of demand, the initial cost of the system connection, sizing of the connection point, and the flow restrictions incorporated into the agreement all serve to recognize that meeting peak system demands is a critical component of the provider-purchaser relationship. Now, I want to explore that statement with you. Do you have a copy of the bulk water filing that the utility filed on July 15th, 2024. Your Honor, I did email to the parties as well as to you all the documents that staff will be referring to.
I can get to that. Yes, I do not have that.
Okay, well, it may not matter. It does. I'm going to quote from the.
Mr. Albert, why don't you go ahead and mark that as
Oh,
an
I'm
exhibit?
sorry. Thank you. Your Honor, we would ask that this be marked as Staff Exhibit 11.
We'll mark it as staff 11 for identification. And for the record, it's mail log 310821.
That's correct. Anyone else? Now, at the bottom of that first page, it does refer to the fact that Allegheny County gave notice to the utility that Allegheny County was increasing its per gallon rate that it charges the utility for the Pinto system. Now, you'll agree with me that there's no indication in that notice, as characterized by the utility, that the rate, that new per 1,000 gallon rate, I'll call it a volumetric rate, is at all affected by the initial, what you refer to as the initial cost of the system connection. Is that correct?
Give me.
I can rephrase that if you'd like.
Let me. I have that document now. If you allow me 1 second just to read that paragraph. And I will, I guess initially I will respond that I have not been historically involved in the preparation of these filings. So when it was emailed the other day, that was the first that I had seen that.
Yeah, take your time reviewing it, please.
Okay, I've read that paragraph.
So again, as characterized by the utility, this is just a straight flow through of an increase in the volumetric rate that Allegheny County charges MWS to serve the Pinto system. Is that correct?
That's what appears to be the case, yes.
And so where do you demonstrate that the initial cost of the system connection is reflected in the volumetric rate that Allegheny County is charging the utility to serve the Pinto system?
Where I am going with that statement is that when the system was first constructed and when that connection with the wholesale water provider was first established, there would have been discussions and agreements in place about or taking place at that time that would have related to what are the sizes of the connection points coming into and leading into the MWS system. As part of the cost of providing that service, there would necessarily be some reflection of the need for the for petitioner to meet its peak demands. So there is, I think, in my opinion, inherently embedded in any wholesale cost, not only the cost of providing average day service to the wholesale customer, but also being able to meet their peak demands. So that's why we allocate a very small percentage of that cost to the extra capacity components.
But you have not presented any evidence. I appreciate your assumption that the bulk water supplier would bake into its volumetric rate these facility costs, but you have not presented any evidence, any documents that substantiate, that support that assumption. Am I correct about that?
I don't have any documents that support that, but it is, my position is based on the experience that I've had over nearly 30 years in the rate design business of allocating the cost of purchased water when conducting a cost of service study. And I think it's appropriate to do so in this case, the way I've done it.
Now, do you know when this interconnection between the county and the Pinto water system was first constructed?
I do not off the top of my head, no.
Now, even assuming that, let's take your assumption that this cost, the facility cost, is baked into the bulk water volumetric rate. Let's go with that assumption. Then where do you come up with the 10%, both for the, for the connection with the size and the connection point? Where do you come up with the 10%?
That is strictly an estimate to recognize that at least some small portion of that cost is related to meeting extra capacity requirements.
Okay, so you're saying that both with respect to the two factors you point to, the initial cost of the system connection and the size of the connection points, based on assumptions based on your experience with other water utilities.
Correct.
Okay, I'll move on. Now, Your Honor, now on my second and final topic, and this is where we have a confidential one introduce and refer to and introduce a confidential data response. My understanding is that Mr. Tibbetts has not executed a non-disclosure agreement referred to as an NDA, so I defer to you on how we proceed.
Well, do we have to go into confidential session?
Yes.
Okay, why don't you finish up with Mr. Miller? Are you have any more public cross for him?
No, I do not, Your Honor.
So rather than jumping in and out, we'll go through the public, and if the public cross, if Mr. Tibbetts and Mr. Bugelmans want to examine Mr. Miller a little bit further, they can do that. Then we'll go into confidential session. And Mr. Tibbetts, since you have not executed a non-disclosure agreement, I'm going to have to essentially ask you to jump off the Zoom meeting, and then I'll send you an email when we're done the confidential session, and you can jump back on. Okay, sir?
Yes, sir. No, I would be happy to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Nobody ever asked me to, so.
Well, it's a tad late now. I can defer to the company.
I mean, obviously, we would have been willing to enter into an NDA with Mr. Tibbetts, but he never asked to do it. He never conducted discovery. So I think at this point it's too late.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I think it's a bit tad late. So, all right. So, Mr. Albert, you're finished. Mr. Tibbetts, do you have any cross-examination for Mr. Miller?
Just generally, have you when you did these studies, have you compared it to or used comparable methods to the municipal wastewater industry or not? Is it the same kind of calculations or not?
Objection.
The theories
Wait, hold on, Mr. Miller. Hold on, Mr. Miller. It was an objection. Go ahead, sir.
Objection based on relevance. I don't see how public wastewater companies are relevant to the cost of service studies conducted in this case.
Okay. I'll overrule it. Mr. Miller, do you need the question again?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. If you know it, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, the overall philosophy of allocating costs between the different cost centers of the utility, whether it's water or wastewater, and then assigning those costs to the various customer classes is generally the same. How you go about the specific calculations is a little bit different, but in general, it's the same philosophy.
Okay, thank you. So you want me off then, and you're going to call me?
Well, hold on a second. Oh, Mr. Bugelman's any redirect?
I have no redirect on this portion of the testimony.
Okay, thank you. All right. Security checking on us. Okay. All right, Mr. I have no questions for Mr. Miller. Don't go anywhere, sir. Mr. Tibbetts, if I could get you to jump off, sir, and I'll shoot you an email when we're done.
Yes, sir.
All right, looks like he is off. Let me
I think he'll.
make sure. And then I'm going to stop the YouTube for anyone watching at home.